but he's behind the scenes, and so IT can verify that he's on the meeting.
Okay. Oh, we don't call his. Well, the clerk will take care of that. His challenge to me was to finish the meeting before he was done proctoring the tests. Well, depending on.
Except for the exec.
Actually, Mr. Attorney. There's, Terry, if there's a, someone signed up on citizen comment, but it's without Mallard Meadows, which is on the consent.
They can ask the floor that takes the one council.
Did you hear that, council? You want to, if you want Mr. Baylor to be able to talk about Mallard Meadows, we have to pull it from the consent. Okay. If we have any questions, well, I do.
Okay, I've got 7 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, scary, huh? The new Beth.
It's like, okay, so God is sick and she's not doing.
She's still among the living.
I think that's my signal to call this meeting to order. This is the Ellensburg City Council meeting of Tuesday, June 21st at 7 p.m., the first day of summer. We need to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Council Member Miller. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Elliot,
Councilmember Elliott is joining us via Zoom behind the scenes.
okay,
I don't think he's going to be
okay,
talking to us
that's fine. Lilquist,
here.
Monica Miller.
Here.
Tab,
Here,
Win.
Here.
And council members Goodlow and Miller, David Miller, have excused absences.
Okay,
There are no proclamations or awards and recognitions tonight. So we are at the approval of the agenda.
move the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second for the agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Two will vote aye. That motion carries. And the consent agenda is before us.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Motion and second to approve the consent agenda is presented. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
The two will vote aye. Motion carries. So we are at 6 petitions. There are no petitions, protests, or communications. So citizen comment on non-agenda issues. Chad Bela, you were signed up, but it was for Mallard Meadows, which we just approved on the consent. So you have. Okay. So are there others in the audience who would like to comment on non-agenda issues? And is there anyone online who would like to speak? Seeing none, we will move to businesses requiring public hearings, page 149. Script to read. The purpose of this legislative hearing is for the council to consider a resolution adopting the city's 6-year transportation improvement plan for 2023 to 2028. The public hearing is now open. I ask your cooperation in the following procedure. Everyone will be given an opportunity to be heard. The city clerk will be making a recording of the proceedings. If you wish to participate in the hearing, you must raise your virtual hand on the Zoom meeting screen or press *9 if you are connected by telephone and wait until I have recognized your request and you have been unmuted. You should then begin by stating your name and address and indicate whether you're speaking for yourself individually or as a spokesperson for a certain group or both. Your testimony must only address the matter under consideration in this hearing. Any questions of staff are to be directed through the council. Each person will have an opportunity to address the council for an initial period not to exceed 5 minutes. If more time is needed, it will be made available after everyone has had an opportunity to speak. Before we hear from the audience, is there a staff report to be presented?
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor and members of City Council. I am Josh Mattson, Assistant City Engineer in the Ellensburg Public Works and Utilities Department. And I'll bring up a presentation right now. So we'll be doing a presentation tonight for the Complete Streets Annual Update and the 6-year Transportation Improvement Plan for the years 2023 to 2028. This presentation comes in 2 parts. The first part is the annual Complete Streets Update for work completed since last year's report, and also a short report on work remaining in 2022. And then the second part of this presentation is the actual transportation improvement plan for the years 2023 to 28. And we'll give a summary of that plan by project type, as you see in the list below. So starting off with part 1, our annual Complete Streets Update. Per city code, we're required to give council an annual update for Complete Streets progress in the past 12 months since our report last June. And this includes work completed last year. And we try to do this every year in conjunction with our annual approval of our transportation improvement plan. So have a list there of work we've completed since our last report in 2021, and also work we've completed this year in 2022. The school district, Ellensburg School District, completed the first project there, Cora Street curb and sidewalk improvements from 15th Avenue to Blue Cascades Trail. And then the next 2 projects on your list were completed by the city together, the Helen Avenue Complete Street sidewalk improvements, as well as the Helen Avenue overlay. And those 2 projects were from Water Street to Walnut Street. And then the city also completed intersection improvements, signal upgrades on the Main Street corridor project. That work was completed late winter, early spring this year. Next, we have a Washington State Department of Transportation project that was completed at Canyon Road and I-90 eastbound ramp intersection improvements. That was the installation of a compact roundabout at that intersection. And finally, we have the University Way and Reeser Creek Road signalization project, which was a recent project that was completed, installation of a new signal at that intersection. Here's a quick snapshot of how we funded the projects I just referenced. So only about a quarter of the funding for those projects was from local funds. Everything else came from other agencies, and the lion's share of the funding for these projects came through grants. So moving on to work that we have planned for the rest of the year. A lot of these projects are already underway. Some have yet to start. Some will not be finished this year, but most of them will. And I'll go through and highlight a few of these in the following slides. And the number that you see there on the left is the number on the TIP list, the Transportation Improvement Plan number. So number 9 is the 5th Avenue Railroad Avenue traffic signal installation. This project began this spring, is currently waiting for the above ground signal components to complete the project. So this project is planned to be completed this summer once all the poles and the signal heads and the cabinets are on site available for the contractor to finish the work. And this project was completed with a grant and also some local traffic impact fee funding. Next project is the University Way Gateway project. This is a stormwater improvement project that includes a lot of frontage improvements as well. That project went out to bid recently and the city is assessing bids at this time. We're planning to have construction begin this year. It'll install a very wide shared use pathway on the north side and then a narrower 7-foot wide sidewalk on the south side of the street with stormwater infiltration features and street trees. That project goes all the way from Weenass Street to nearly the Red Horse Diner is an approximate termination point. Hoping for that project to start this summer, and it'll probably last all the way into next year. Quite a bit of work for us to complete on that project. And that one is primarily funded through a DOE grant as well. Next project is the Alder Street and 14th Avenue signalization project, along with the Palouse to Cascades Reconnect Trail. This project goes from 14th Avenue down to the Kittitas Valley Event Center. It'll install a 12-foot wide shared use pathway on the west side of the road. And that will connect the existing trailhead at the Palouse to Cascades trail at the Kittitas Valley Event Center all the way up to where the Reconnect Trail ends right now near the intersection of Alder Street and 14th Avenue, D. Nicholson Boulevard. That project includes some street lighting, trees, buffer strips, and also some signal upgrades at University and Alder Street, and also an installation of a new warranted signal at the intersection of 14th Avenue and Alder Street. That project is also underway right now. They're moving right along, and hopefully the majority of the work is complete by the end of the summer. And that would include all the sidewalk, curb gutter, and landscaping. And then they are planning to come back later this fall again to complete the signal work, since it's difficult to get all those materials supplied quickly. So that work will probably be completed in the fall. Next project is number 14 on your tip list. That's the 6th Avenue Paverstone Walk and Angle Parking Project. That's just on the north side of City Hall here. And what that is going to do is replace that existing deteriorated sidewalk on the north side of City Hall with a nice Paverstone walkway, as well as convert that existing parallel parking to diagonal parking. So it'll increase our parking capacity here adjacent to City Hall. And we'll plant some new trees and then also install an electric fleet car charger in the parking lot for city vehicles. That project is also planned for this summer, and that is funded locally. And it is being performed by the same contractor, Western Excavating, who's doing the Alder Street project. So again, another summary here for the work remaining in 2022. Most of the work that we're doing right now is, most of the funding is through grants, and we do have a good share of local funding for the projects to be finished this year. So that completes the first part of the presentation. Now we're moving into the second part, moving on to the 2023 to 2028 Transportation Improvement Plan. So the 6-year TIP is required to be annually submitted to the Department of Transportation in July of each year. Most of the projects on the list do not have secured funding and are dependent on receiving some grant funds. So if we have the projects on the plan, it helps us apply for grant funds as those funding opportunities become available. The funding status for each project is designated with an S for secured funding or P for potential or planned funding. Amendments to the plan can be made through council at any time throughout the year and then submitted to DOT. And the plan before you tonight is the plan for 2023 to 2028. So I'm going to go through a few slides, just grouping the projects to make it a little bit more digestible. So every year we have these first four, number 1 through 4, those are annual projects. bridge inspections, engineering transfer, signal optimization, alley reconstruction. Those are all projects that we always put on the list because they are funded through our arterial street budget. So nothing new there to report. Moving on, I'm going to give you a quick summary of projects that we have planned next year for 2023, a little bit of a highlight of what is on the list. One of the main projects we wanted to highlight was number 12, the Finning Shared Use Pathway Project. This is going to install a shared use pathway on the west side of Finning Road from 3rd Avenue existing sidewalks all the way up to the Palouse to Cascades Trail and connect to existing sidewalks there just south of Vantage Highway. This includes some frontage improvements. This is a county road that we're working through the county on this project with them. And it's a good partnership we have, and we're able to get a grant to perform this project. So we're starting design on that right now and have construction planned in 2023. Next project that we wanted to highlight was number 16, the Brick Road improvements. This is a similar project. We're going to install sidewalks on both sides of Brick Road from Radio Road up to the McElroy Trail where the sidewalk ends there, but also we have a trail that leads down to McElroy Park. This project includes street lighting, buffer strip, and street trees. Also working on design for that project this year with a planned construction of 2023. And we also have a partial grant for this project, surface transportation block grant. Next, number 20, the Water Street overlay. The city has many overlay projects planned. This one rose to the top for us. The surface condition is getting close to where we'd like to have that replaced. So we are looking for funding sources right now to do a grind of the existing road and then overlay with new asphalt. And we'd like to get that done next year. We have some funding applications planned at this point to get that work done next year. Here's a breakdown of those 2023 projects and how we foresee getting those funded. Some of this money is secured, some of it is planned if we're able to get grant award. So moving on with the plan, this is a group of street surfacing projects similar to the overlay I was just talking about. This could include an overlay or an asphalt slurry seal to an existing running surface. Really a pavement preservation project. And so we have one of these scheduled on average about once a year, depending on the condition of the road and also the availability of funding. So you can see the tip number on the left, 1920, those are all the reference numbers. And then on the right of the name, we say the S would be a secured funding source, such as the downtown slurry seal, and then the rest are planned funding sources. Next, we have sidewalk and pathway projects. These install, replace, or upgrade existing curb, gutter, and sidewalks or pathways. And we have quite a few projects listed over the next 6 years. And most of these include ADA curb ramp upgrades and crosswalk improvements as well. Next, we have intersection improvement projects, which install, replace, or upgrade existing traffic signals or install new improved intersection control features like a roundabout. These projects may also include street widening, pavement markings, lighting, or ADA curb ramp upgrades. So we have on average about an intersection a year that we need to improve capacity for future growth. Next, we have street improvement projects, which aim to complete streets that have missing urban street components. These may also include street widening, curb gutter, sidewalk, lighting, signage, other features essentially to make the street an urban roadway. We have a good example there at the bottom. Those pictures are from Helena Avenue project we completed this year, where we just did not have a sidewalk that finished, and we also had a lack of space for bicycle traffic on a bike route. So we had bike lanes and sidewalks installed with that street improvement project. Next on the list are our multimodal projects, which aim to enhance and support other transportation modes, including walking, cycling, commuting, and local regional transit. So we've got 4 projects on there, including wayfinding, bike lanes, and a multimodal facility study, which is a possible opportunity we have with CW for assessment of a site that they're considering for potential transit multimodal use. This next slide is just a summary for you for reference of the utilization of our traffic impact fee fund, which is spread out to several different identified projects in our traffic impact fee plans. So this just gives a quick summary of projects I've already covered throughout the presentation that are on the tip and how much money they're using from our traffic impact fee fund. So with that, staff recommends council consider adoption of the resolution on page 153 of your agenda packet to adopt the proposed 2023 to 2028 6-year transportation improvement plan as shown, and also authorize staff to submit listed projects for funding as grant opportunities become available.
Council, are there questions?
Um,
Public
Public hearing.
comments? I gotta read the script. So the floor is open to testimony from the public. Each person will have an opportunity to address the council for an initial period not to exceed 5 minutes. If more time is needed, it will be made available after everyone has had an opportunity to speak. Is there anyone who would like to comment? See no one rushing to the podium. Ben, is there anyone online? No. So seeing no one, does the staff have anything to add?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Council, do you have any questions of the staff or public?
With the projects that we have planned out, great example is Fifth and Railroad, how we have that light going in there. And it's been at a stalemate because we can't get the poles in.
Mhm.
Are there any precautions that we're currently taking so that our next project that we do does not run into the same 6 to 8 month delay that we've seen?
Sure. So it's market driven. So if materials are, we can't order the materials until we're under contract. And so really it's the way the market is. And so there's really not a cost impact to the city. The intersection is still functioning as it was without the signal. Typical lead times in the past have been 3 to 4 months. That's based on previous projects. So it's a bit of an extra delay for sure, but it's say not as bad as it really seems. And they're starting to get a little better now as far as improving delivery times. So the Alder Street signal, for example, they were hoping to have those to us in about 4 months.
And the for the Palouse Cascades National Trail that's going in for that same intersection you were just talking about, where exactly are they putting it? Are they going to be taking property to do that or connecting it directly onto the streets?
So we're actually narrowing the street a little bit to make a little bit more room for that extra wide, 12-foot wide pathway that's right out there right now. It's only a 5-foot wide sidewalk. So it's gonna be a really nice, big, safe pathway for bicyclists and walkers. And so we worked with CWU on a portion of the project where we needed a little bit more space, and they gave us an 8-foot wide roadway and utility easement in order to install the pathway partially onto their property. And so we do have an easement from CWU. Further south of them, I'd say south of 11th Avenue, we were able to get the entire trail within the right of way. So we didn't have to use any private property for that portion. And then that would be the same also. We're working south of University Way along Kittitas County property, and we were able to stay within the right of way there as well. You bet.
Anyone else? The public testimony portion of this hearing is now closed. Council may now begin its discussion and deliberation of this matter.
Move resolution 2022-23.
It's actually 24. We had 23 in the consent agenda.
Oh, okay. So I move resolution 2022-24, approving the transportation improvement plan for 2023 through 2028 and authorize staff to submit listed projects for funding as grant opportunities become available.
Seconded.
Motion and second to adopt resolution 2022-24, adopting the proposed, adopting the tip for 2023 to 28 and authorizing staff to submit listed projects for funding as grant opportunities become available. Is there any discussion on the matter?
Yeah, one, I just think we need to recognize the work that the team is doing in obtaining the grants. There's a couple things that I would maybe ask in our next update a year from now. Would be to call out the actual numbers when you put the pie chart up. I mean, it's significant. And I think also then showing the percentage of local revenue relative to the percentage of grant revenue that you've been able to obtain is also significant. I think it's helpful for council to see that because it gives us something more concrete to talk about. But I think also just in terms of the public and getting that on record is an important piece because you are doing amazing work, leveraging local dollars, you know, whether it's through the TIB or stormwater or arterial streets. I mean, you just go right down. You're seeing opportunities, you're leveraging our dollars, and you're getting those dollars back into this community to make it a better, more accessible place. And it's truly appreciated, but I think we could emphasize that a bit more for our public. So that's all.
I guess I would add to that and really mitigating congestion issues. I mean, really,
Yeah, I'm ready for a
Travel-
12-foot sidewalk coming down Alder to get.
there's some exciting projects and that are really a benefit to everyone in the community. So unless there's any more discussion, all in favor?
I
I too will vote aye. That I'm counting noses. There's no objections as long as Rich doesn't pipe in. That motion carries. So next is the staff, let's see, the proposed traffic code revision, which is also Mr. Mattson. And not a public hearing.
That is correct. Mr. Mattson, you're up.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, again, members of City Council, Josh Mattson, Assistant City Engineer. Before you tonight is a first reading of an ordinance with proposed revisions to Title 8, which is the traffic code of the Ellensburg City Code. The proposed ordinance reflects parking revision requests from staff due to the Ellensburg School District completion of Cora Street improvements, as well as capital improvements performed by the city at multiple locations, or corrections to traffic code as identified by city staff, and also revisions needed due to annexations of the Courier Creek area as well as the Anderson Road area. Proposed revisions are to the following code sections: no parking designated places, two-way and all-way stop intersections, stopping required at certain cross streets, as well as speed limits. So with that, staff has reviewed all of the revisions and have no objections or concerns with their approval. Staff recommends council consider first reading of the proposed ordinance revising portions of the traffic code.
Are there questions for Mr. Mattson? Is there a motion? you want to comment? I'm going to forget this every time. So is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the traffic code revisions? Is there anyone online who would like to speak? I see no. No one stepping forward or raising their hand. So
To approve the first reading of the amended traffic code ordinance.
4891.
What?
4891.
4891.
ordinance for, so. Sarah, did I hear a second? A motion and, there's a motion and second to approve ordinance 4891, first reading of ordinance 4891, amending the traffic code ordinance. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I too will vote aye. That motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ellensburg, Washington, relating to Title 8 traffic and amending sections as listed in the ordinance of the Ellensburg City Code.
Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Next, we are at item 9B, a resolution appointing a new city public records officer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. For many years, going back before my tenure here, the city attorney has acted as the public records officer for the city. It's a role that is statutorily mandated, but in, I would say, the vast majority of cities, that role is served by either the city clerk or the deputy city clerk, but just by history and tradition, it's been the city attorney's role here. But as we've grown and responsibilities have expanded, we made a determination internally that that role would better be served by my executive assistant, Dustin Davidson, as the public records officer. He has been pretty much handling that unofficially for the past couple of years. We obviously work very closely together when there are legal issues concerning potential exemptions or how to respond, but really Dustin has done the majority, the yeoman's work on responding to public records requests. And we do have two different public records officers. We have a separate one in the police department. They handle their own records requests. So these are for records requests that are directed solely at for non-police requests. Dustin, as I said, has been doing this for a couple of years now. He's also attended quite a bit of training for public records officers on public records. This week, he is at the city clerk's conference, which is why he's not here to accept this responsibility. He didn't really have a choice, though. We've discussed it though, and he's on board with taking this on formally. So I think it makes sense both logistically and practically. And I would like council to adopt the attached resolution, which formally designates Dustin Davidson as the city's public records officer.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Wiener? Is there any public comment about records requests? Is there anyone online? There is no one. So if there are no questions, is there a motion?
So move the adoption of resolution 2022-25, appointing Dustin Davidson as the city public records office effective July 1st, 2022.
Motion and second to adopt resolution 2022-25, appointing Dustin Davidson as the city's public records officer. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I too will vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you. 9C, a resolution to extend streetery permits.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, Terry Weiner, City Attorney again. As you're aware, back during the heart of the pandemic in 2020, there was an emergency resolution that was in place in the city. And during that time, the city manager created an administrative rule allowing for streeteries in the downtown area under certain published rules. And since that time, the permit process was implemented, and we've had 3 streeteries, restaurants take advantage of that with their streeteries permits being issued. The original time limit for that expired, or was to expire at the time that the emergency resolution was vacated, and then that was extended a couple of times. And during that time, there's been discussion at council meetings as well as through a subcommittee looking at streeteries regulations. At your last meeting, a draft ordinance was presented, and during the discussion of that ordinance, which did not receive a first reading at that time, instead, staff was directed to do some additional work and some potential amendments to that draft ordinance. The current expiration of the resolution in place for streeters permits expires at the end of this month on June 30th. And part of council's instruction at that last meeting was to bring forward a resolution to extend the permits for those 3 streeteries and no others through November 1st, 2022. And that is the resolution you have before you. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Well, first, is there any public comment? I see no one stepping forward. Is there anyone with their hand raised? There is none. So are there questions for Mr. Rayner? Are there motions?
I've moved to adopt the resolution 2022-6, extending permits for existing streeteries through November 1st, 2022.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt resolution 2022-26, extending permits for existing streeteries through November 1st, 2022. Any discussion?
This is second. I just thank staff for coming back as quickly as you did to get this in place so that within our time constraints. I was talking to one of the folks that have the streeteries this afternoon, actually, and was really pleased that there was a certainty in the extension that allowed the conversation to continue.
All in favor?
Aye.
2 will vote aye. That motion carries. We are at new business, skate park mural approval. Page 206.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Josephine Camarillo, Library Director and Arts Commission Liaison. Back in September 19th, 2019, the Arts Commission approved funding in the amount of $2,500 for a mural to go up at the skate park. On January 9th, 2020, mural artist Jason Clifton was chosen to create the mural, but will need to go through the process of approval and installation. On March 12th, 2020, the Arts Commission Chair viewed a sample of the proposed artwork from Clifton and it was approved. But then March 13th happened, and that's basically when the world sort of stopped, and many planned projects and activities were shut down. But with time, the world slowly regained its normalcy. But unfortunately, under miscommunication, Jason proceeded to create his mural on March 28th, 2022. However, corrective actions were taken retroactively this year in 2022, April 14th. Arts Commission approved the mural at their regular meeting. On April 15th, Clifton submitted his mural application to Community Development. On May 11th, Parks and Recreation Commission approved the mural at their regular meeting. And here we are on June 21st, presenting his mural project to City Council for approval. Additional spending authority is needed from the Arts Acquisition Fund budget to accommodate additional funds to pay for the mural in the amount of $2,500. Ellensburg Arts Commission asked council to accept the skate park mural as presented and approve the necessary budget adjustments.
does anyone from the public have comment on the skate park mural? Does anyone online? If you would like to come to you need to come to the lectern and speak into the microphone. And I believe Ms. Camarillo is trying to pull up the graphics.
So image 1, image 2, image 3, image 4, and image 5.
Do you have comments? Could you first begin by introducing yourself?
My name is Carmen Bichon. I'm a business owner in downtown Ellensburg. My question was, before this is voted on, could we see the proposed artwork? So we're seeing it now. And my second question is, could you justify the increase in funding that you're requesting?
Can you speak into the microphone?
Could you justify the increase in funding that you're requesting?
So the funding amount of 2,500 for the mural was approved at the September 19th, 2019 Arts Commission meeting. And then since that funding wasn't used, anything excess is moved into our arts acquisition fund that funds any future public art activities. So that's where the funding is coming from. It's not from their regular budget year of 2022, but it's coming from their reserve fund.
Is there anyone online who would like to speak?
So Josephine,
Go ahead.
it's not additional funding, it's the original intended funding, just coming from a different pot.
Yes, because it was not used in 2020 when it was supposed to be created and paid for. It was just anything excess is put into the arts acquisition reserve fund.
So those unspent funds got put into the art acquisition fund, which we have to approve
Yes,
to use separate from their general operating budget. And that's what we're doing
that is correct.
or asked.
Can you interpret, are these skaters that are being memorialized? Is that what's happening here?
These are skaters. Some of them, let's see, I know the first one is Sage Francois. He was a local person here in town. He's depicted there as a memorial, a frequent person at our skate park previously. And for the other images, I'm not quite sure. I'm not a skate park person, but I believe they are skaters that have passed away.
Can you, on that right there, if that appears to be the word sex, that I guess I kind of object to. Is that what it
I think that's the
says?
intent of what it's supposed to say.
Skate.
says skate?
Skate, 18.
Seeing
Sorry, I was-
SUCKS.
I was saying the wrong one.
Oh, the big one.
the
says-
big one
yeah, the
says
big yellow
skate.
one says skate. The little red one. I'm just, I guess. If we could clarify that and perhaps change the word if possible,
Okay,
I would appreciate it.
I'll bring that to the commission and to the artist.
Thank you. Council, do you have any further questions?
Questions answered.
Is there a motion?
I move to accept the skate park mural as presented. If you want to
And approve.
and approve the necessary budget adjustments.
Second,
Would she have a
Yeah,
revision to it?
well, she's going, I mean, that needs to come as a motion. then, I think. Motion is what was just stated and it was seconded.
Yes, there is a motion and second to accept the skate park mural as presented and approve the necessary budget adjustments. I'm not sure. I think it's a little unclear what it is saying and I'm unclear whether this is a completed work currently. Is it done or is it not done?
It is complete.
I'm not sure that it's worth changing or putting it in a motion, but if it was possible to change, I would make the request.
Council, if I could clarify, I think an earlier question was a request to view the concept. And typically with the process that we have in place, a concept would be submitted and that would walk through the approval process. And so this is a retroactive approval because the work was done without that entire process in place. So we're missing some information that would be part of the typical process. So you're being asked retroactively to.
I'm just unsure how process-wise to make that change. But I sensitivity-wise, I can see, I mean, it looks not how we want to represent Ellensburg. But we have a motion and second. All in favor? And I will abstain. Actually, so that's 3, 4, is that
It's
Is
the majority of the
pass?
quorum present. Motion carries.
quorum of those who are present? Okay, so that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are at 12A, the manager's report.
I have one more.
Another arts one. This is the 2022 Arts Commission mid-year review and spending plan.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor and council members. Josephine Cambrio, Library Director and Arts Commission Liaison. And here tonight, I will be presenting the Arts Commission mid-year review and 2023 spending plan. So we welcome 2022 with open arms because things were just coming back to normal. And we were able to go back to our regular scheduled programming, even with adding some exciting new programs to the mix. We continued with our grant awards to community members and organizations. We had a total of 25 applicants that totaled $33,668. And we were able to award 21 grants totaling $2,409,908. There's a list of our award winners here. And right now, what's happening is International T-shirt Day, one of our grant award grantees. And I was just there, and these are pictures just from a couple of hours ago. It was great attendance there. Music was playing and people were smiling and socializing. So I'm even wearing a T-shirt in honor of this. Also, the Arts Commission continued to purchase city art. They select art from the Kittitas County Juried Art Show for the city's permanent collection. The 3 art pieces were selected. And hopefully we could see that hanging here in City Hall to kind of beautify the building or possibly another building in the city. The panel that selected these pieces consisted of 2 arts commissioners, 1 council member, 1 staff member, and then 1 community member. Then we also had the skate park mural come alive. We, after taking corrective actions and completely proper protocols, the mural has been well received by the community. And actually the t-shirt day is actually happening in this site. So it was nice to see people gathered in this place. Then something new that happened with the Arts Commission is we selected a poet laureate to represent City of Ellensburg for a commitment of 3 years. This is Marie Marchand. She's a local here. She teaches up at Central. And her primary duties for the next 3 years is to promote poetry in the community, host a number of events and performances, and then at the end of her 3rd term, create a city poem specific to Ellensburg. And you can catch a special poetry reading of hers this Saturday at Gerald's on the 25th at 2 p.m. if you want to come and take and meet her. We also, at the June Art Walk, we celebrated our 2022 Arts Treasure Award winner, Richard Denner. He's an artist and he's a poet. We actually, part of the city art collection, one of his pieces was selected for our city collection. So that was pretty nice to do. It was a great event that we celebrated our new poet laureate as well as our arts treasure for 2022. And then the Arts Commission has been very involved with the Ellensburg Community Cultural Arts Plan. The City of Ellensburg, in partnership with Central, the Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Association, Laughing Horse Arts Foundation, and Centerfuse, is creating the Ellensburg Community Cultural Arts Plan to inspire future cultural arts programming over the next 10 years. Our Arts Commission, on behalf of the city, continues to be heavily involved in this process in helping to build a strong, vibrant arts community to strengthen economic development and opportunities and investment. And I believe more will be shared with council at a special meeting in August. So lots is happening right now with this community arts plan. I believe they are in the planning phase of implementation. And so for the 2023 proposed spending plan is basically very similar to what was done in 2022. It's relatively the same with the grants and operations and capital public art being its primary sections. So staff recommends council approve the 2023 Arts Commission spending plan as presented. And the commission wishes to thank the council for their continued support of the arts in Ellensburg. And it's not an easy task, but they are very happy to take it on and try to help our community look very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak on the Arts Commission spending plan? Is there anyone online? Sure so. So, council, are there any questions?
So out of the nearly $30,000 in grant money that we're giving out to these individuals for their contributions, are any of them going to the art that's depicted downtown on the buildings for the rodeo signs? Like, what is that, 4th and Main? There's 2 murals on either side of Main Street there that have been dilapidated for years.
Mhm. So the art grants that the commission has given out I'm going to go back to these applicants. So people apply to, organizations and individuals apply for grant funds to do a project for the city that's art related, whether it's physical art or a performance art of some sort. And I don't believe we've received any mural applications. And if we do receive a mural application, then that actually goes through a different process through community development.
Mr. Tam?
Yeah, if I may speak to that. We actually initiated a process that looked specifically at the murals that were promoting the rodeo, the one on Third and Main, and then there's one up on the, I forget the name of the building. Started and actually initiated conversations with the chamber and the rodeo board. Somebody else, and then actually a citizen that had brought that issue forward to us. The artist of those murals is Donald O'Connor, who passed in the middle of our conversations. And that sort of ground that a bit to a halt. And we have not picked it back up. But the conversation was more how we could partner with the rodeo. There was a recognition they needed to be restored. There was an interest on the rodeo's part to see them restored as promotions for the rodeo and fair. I think there's somebody from the fair board, because the one on Third, I think, is the rodeo and fair. But honestly, we just haven't pursued it since Mr. O'Connor's death.
That's outside of the Arts Commission's purview.
Yeah.
Outside of that.
Yeah, it was just, yeah, that was good. But it is an issue. I mean, when we're just up on Friday.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Landmarks and Design Commission has a mural.
Yes, they do. It would have to go through that process as well as through community development.
I believe they did expand the definitions through their grant process to allow for murals as well.
The Arts Commission.
No, the
For-
the
oh, the
Landmarks and
Landmarks
Design
Com-
Commission. Right.
So if someone wanted to refurbish those murals, they would go through the Landmarks grant process. Go ahead.
I'm a little unclear. A couple things. And it's a process thing. Help me understand why we're approving a spending plan in June when we're in a city budget process now.
So it's actually in our code, our city code, that spending plan is presented and accepted by council in June of the year. And this gives a framework for setting the budget for the following year.
So that said, there's two elements that I would be a bit concerned about in moving this approval. There's been conversation about supporting the Arts Commission with an FTE or some portion thereof, which would not appear to necessarily be covered within this. So I would be concerned if we're providing direction to budget in terms of budget process, that anything that we would adopt here could potentially conflict or need to be modified as we looked at the support that's required as the Arts Commission has really expanded its role. And then I think then the second component of that is we reference the cultural arts plan, which could require certainly an investment of dollars different than what we have done historically. I don't know that, but so my question again would be, if the cultural arts plan is presented to council and presented to the Arts Commission, and there are actions there that require a city investment, it feels premature then, recognizing that somehow we put this in code, which that took our action. But it also feels premature.
What is the process for amending this if we adopt it in concept now?
We can absolutely amend it at a later date with new information.
Right.
Or you could postpone adoption of this to a later date with more information too. So I think you have two pathways or
Well, I
more.
appreciate you saying all of that. But didn't we just do this with the tip process? Didn't we approve it and they bring it back if there's some sort of?
It's a little bit different, and I'll explain the difference. The difference is the tip hearing is, and the plan is required to be presented and filed with the state by July. So that's a statutory requirement. In this case, the ordinance only requires that the plan be presented to council in June. You can delay it if you want. It can be adopted later, but staff is obligated to bring it to you in June.
Okay, we don't have to approve it. But we can approve it and then amend it.
It's just a plan.
I guess I would, I wouldn't vote against the expenditures because I think I want to see the investment in the arts, but I would be more comfortable recognizing that we have this presented, but then adopting a realistic spending plan within the budget to provide the direction to the Arts Commission, rather than trying to amend.
Just holding off on, go through the budget.
I mean, there's a lot floating around, particularly
have that.
this issue at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to see the cultural arts plan and also some resolution of staffing.
I was going to ask about the operations piece and what's included. in that.
Operations is contract work, contracting out for someone to do something outside. And also it includes just regular subscriptions.
It says advertising. and Well,
yes.
I guess my point was the staffing support.
Staffing support is in there as well for contract work. If like say, so we need someone to build a website, we can contract that out. Do a special task that I'm unable to do or any of the arts commissioners are able to do.
And
Is-
I would add typically, the staffing support has been in the operations section. So that's in past budgets, that's been reflective of staff support.
That's not happening now.
That wasn't calculated in for that specific amount. It was reflected in contract work.
Okay, thanks.
Several years ago, when we increased funding for the arts, it was presented to us as an economic development driver, and there was some very specific, as I remember it, and I could be wrong, you presented it, so you probably know, Monica, but it was, there was a sort of methodology that one could go through to find out how much the arts does drive the economy, what the economic benefit of the arts.
So we
Is, and-
aggregated creative occupation codes that fell into occupations that were part of the creative class. And that was a variety of occupations and also 990 income from arts nonprofits to look at the collective economic impact of the arts with something called the Creative Vitality Index. That information is still available. When looking at it in this moment, it's
Yeah,
different, but those data points are still available.
I have been curious whether the investment has paid off as we hoped it would. And I recognize that collecting probably 2020 data at this point is not going to be reflective of that. But at some point, I would like the Arts Commission to go through that process. And even if it was from the period of, I forget when we started, to 2019, just to see if there was progress with that regard.
And even just to look at it today as as a point going forward, because there is a lot of activity happening right now around economic development in the arts that regardless of whether it's shifted drastically up or down is still a point in time that we can look at toward the future.
If I may, I think that you'll see the cultural arts plan when it comes back to us, we'll have measures of accountability
Okay.
and the kind of data that, maybe not the historic data, but certainly the starting point. I think you'll see that incorporated into some of the points of accountability that will come forward through the cultural arts plan.
And also looking at this report by comparison to reports previously is showing a lot of activity, a lot more activity than I think the city was seeing 5
Oh,
years ago.
absolutely.
And that in and of itself is a huge achievement and something worth recognizing in terms, a lot of these are businesses and they're contributing to, they're either independent businesses or they're contributing to nonprofit activity. Like Teresa's work is with the Recovery Center, the EVE, that's for the new dance ensemble nonprofit that just started and is a functioning business downtown, which is really amazing. And also investing, in a poet laureate and their practice. It's incredible. Just, this in and of itself is an economic impact as well. And I think the Arts Commission has done a great job.
I just, thank you. I wanted to circle back to that because it's, well, qualitatively, I think it's paid off. I'm, it would be nice to have that measure and to show folks that this investment did pay off. So, are we, this was presented to us and do we need a motion to say we're not going to do anything or we just don't do anything?
I think staff needs directions if you're not going to adopt the spending plan at this time as to when you want them to bring it back.
I think it could come back as the budget process. You're in the middle, you're at the front end of the budget process. Realistically, I mean, we're going to pass a budget in November, December, whenever. That should provide the template for moving into the next fiscal year.
That is sufficient. Thank you.
I have a couple more comments outside of the budget process. The list, as I mentioned, of organizations and individuals is growing and is great, but I think that it also, there are a lot of similar people and applicants, repeat applicants and recipients. And it shows that there is still, I know that there is a lot more happening in the community than this. And I know also that the other grant processes have similar issues with reaching out to the community at large. So I guess I would just like to think through or ask the Arts Commission to think through how to spread the word a little bit more to increase the diversity of applicants. And to that note, work, perhaps I've heard some great ideas coming out of the DEI Commission for supporting arts projects. And I don't necessarily see anything in this plan with that. And it feels like there are some opportunities for collaboration, specifically with the upcoming Unity Park project. And I'm not sure where the funding for the art falls in that project, but I know that both of those commissions are interested in putting a stamp on it. So I don't know how to integrate that into this, but I would just like to keep that as part of the conversation moving forward.
We do have two commissioners that are attending the Unity Park discussions, so they are fully ingrained in that capacity. And I do believe in our public art fund, that is something set aside, something for Unity Park as well. And as for the grants, the Arts Commission is now on the same schedule as the other city grants, and they are in the process of planning a grant training for potential applicants to help them, make their application more robust and more viable. So to help them with their projects they have in mind.
Is there any further comment? So I think we have direction and can move on to the manager's report now.
Thank you, Mayor. Heidi Barron-Sternaway, your city manager. Always love the opportunity to showcase the work of our staff. And in 2021, we were just notified that that our wastewater treatment plant received the Outstanding Performance Award by the Department of Ecology. So wonderful work by a very talented team. Next, coffee with council. So instead of doing the mayor at the market this year, we're actually going to share the stage and invite folks to coffee with council. And our very first coffee with council is at 9 o'clock from 9 to 11 at DNM Coffee on Friday. So we'll have a couple council members once a month. Spread at different times and different locations throughout the year, and we'll continue sharing those as they happen. So thank you, council, and folks are welcome to show up. There's no appointment necessary, and you can talk to council about the things that are important to you in the community.
And I just want to note that was not my decision. That was because others wanted to be involved. I was happy to work as hard as Bruce did.
Absolutely, thank you. Also a reminder that this week that we are hosting in this room in the council chambers on Thursday afternoon from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. That's Thursday, June 23rd, an open house for the Shoreline Master Program. We do an update to that every few years. And as part of the outreach, we'll do some in-person information. So again, 4:30 p.m. on Thursday, June 23rd. And finally, just a last minute reminder, the Touch a Truck event and bike rodeo is tomorrow at 11 a.m. at Rotary Park. Again, no appointment necessary. We'll have lots of folks out there and lots of fun activities for kids. And so join in the event, stop by, and I believe we have 811 snow cones. And so you can find out what the sewer flavor snow cone is. So. That's all for me.
We're going to start with Mr. Wynn.
Madam Mayor, we do have a need for an executive session as well tonight.
Oh, okay.
Estimated to be 5 minutes with action to,
And
yeah, I'll just,
yeah, okay. I didn't notice that. Okay, but we are still going to start with Adam Wynn because the left side of the room is absent.
Not a whole lot for this last 2 weeks. We did have the environmental meeting. With the city manager came and did a presentation for sustainability and energy plan. She went over basically what we're looking at there in conjunction with the Utility Advisory Commission. She also went over the progress that the city has already made and is continuing to make in things such as the LED streetlights, things like that for energy conservation, as well as the solar grid upgrade and addition at Rotary Park.
Got it. Thank you.
That's all.
Thanks.
After the last council meeting, I attended the Unity Park open house and with a number of other representatives from commissions stopped by to take a look and give their input on 2 different schematics and concepts and help prioritize. Following that was a Parks and Rec meeting where we heard from Walker Macy and met the architects for the structures of the park, and also got feedback from Parks and Rec as well. So I look forward to seeing how they interpreted all of that lively feedback. But overall, I mean, it's a really exciting process, and I don't think So I was happy to be a part of it. And I attended the Ellensburg Night Market. That's a monthly thing down that the EDA, the Downtown Association, is producing last Wednesday. And we were kind of crammed in that parking lot behind the Early Bird. And was just looking at Unity Park and dreaming of the potential of, how so many community members and organizations will be able to activate it. But it's also the downtown market, I feel, is a great example of a lot of the conversations that are happening right now with economic development planning, with the cultural arts planning, with the work we're doing at Unity Park to support entrepreneurs, small businesses, and activate our spaces. So if you have a chance, put it on your calendar for the third Wednesday of next month. It's a really great event. And I noted that tomorrow at Landmarks and Design, they will be reviewing the streetery language as well. Good.
I also attended the Unity Park open house, but then went to an airport advisory committee meeting. Today, the commissioners, I attended their public hearing where they considered a lease to Airport Holdings LLC to create a new, they're leasing 3 lots, creating a new fixed base operator, maintenance facility, a commercial hangar, some community observation area. So in a pilot lounge and all kinds of good things. So that's going to be, I think I've heard, a $1.4 million project up there that's really going to make a difference for that airport. And it is a local pilot businessman who is undertaking that. So that's pretty exciting. Probably more exciting than the rules and regulations and minimum standards that they also adopted. But so I also attended our utility advisory committee meeting in which the telecom plan was presented, and which will come to council, I think, at our next meeting.
July 18th.
In July. With that recommendation, and there was also a recommendation that I'm not sure when we'll come back to council for to stop requiring the extension of gas lines. So right now, if a developer puts in a new development, they're required to extend the gas line, and so we'd like the council to reconsider that. I attended a Department of Commerce resource adequacy webinar, which I learned there's a lot of smart people looking at the issue of resource adequacy to avoid brownouts and blackouts in the future for electricity. And there's a lot of modeling and all kinds of things, but I still didn't get the sense of what is being built to provide winter energy at the level that we're going to need. I didn't really hear it, but I did hear that Bonneville is required to provide our energy if we ask for it. So I'm not sure how that works if they don't have it, but so we can, and they're required to plan for it. So so with that, we have an executive session to talk about collective bargaining, professional negotiations, or grievance or mediation proceedings for 5 minutes.
Yes, initially
And
for
then-
5 minutes with action being requested afterwards.
with that. So we will be back in this room in 5 minutes, and this is, I have to say, it's per RCW 42.30.1404B, correct? Correct.
Something like that.
Thank you. Oh, that's nice. We can do that when we come back. We will need another 5 minutes, so. see you soon.
Nothing like an executive session to clear the room. You are to the left.
Or to the right, depending on how you're looking.
I'm starting to think this side stinks or something.
Okay, so we are back. And Ms. Young, our Human Resources Director, has a presentation for us.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. What I have for you tonight is a memorandum of understanding to amend the 2021 to 2023 collective bargaining agreement with the IBEW. As by way of background and or summary, the light utility has had significant turnover and long-standing vacancies. Exit interviews with staff revealed some concerns with compensation compared to other electric utilities, as well as some employee dissatisfaction with the work environment. In an effort to dispel rumors, mend relationships, and improve staff morale, city leadership began engaging in conversations with the crew in late 2021 and have continued conversations with them and the IBEW Assistant Business Manager. The city's desire is to build and maintain a highly qualified and engaged light crew, but to do so, some changes will be necessary. Previous council action was approval of the current collective bargaining agreement. By way of analysis, based on conversations with the employees and their union representative, our recruitment efforts will continue to suffer without a change in compensation. In addition to base wages, standby compensation is lagging behind other utilities, and there has been a contract interpretation disagreement with regard to the allowance for personal protective equipment. Specifically, should shipping and tax be deducted from the employee's allowance or be covered by the employer? Following several discussions between HR and the union has agreed to the provisions of the MOU being presented to council this evening. The provisions include an increase in standby compensation, a temporary increase to the service person's wages for Mike Hagemeyer while the 4-person position was vacant, a change to VIBA contributions that will no longer require the employee to have a monthly payroll deduction, an increase in the PPE allowance in an amount to offset the cost of shipping and tax, a temporary shift in inspection work from the IBEW employees to non-IBEW employees, and a clarification of other contract terms. The total estimated increase in costs for the remainder of 2022 based on current staffing levels is $22,800, with most of that coming from the increase in standby compensation. The 2022 increase is offset by the vacancy savings estimated to be $145,888 as of June 30, 2022. And this is base wages only that will increase as vacancies go unfilled. Future increases will be included as part of the biennial budget process. Based on fully staffing, we're looking at about $42,272 in costs for the remainder of the year. Staff recommends authorization of the city manager signature on the memorandum of understanding.
Council, your questions for Ms. Young? And this, we don't get public comment, correct?
No, if there is anybody online.
There's no one in the room. Is there anyone online who would like to speak? No. Thank you.
So I'll move that we authorize city manager's signature on the memorandum of understanding as presented.
Second.
Motion and second to authorize the city manager's signature on the memorandum of understanding. Is there discussion?
Yeah, I just want to thank Lisa, HR, and our city manager and city attorney for moving forward with this conversation and being able to put this MOU in front of us. Those of us that were on council at the time of the conversations around the contract that's currently in place was uncomfortable at best. I think this is a huge step in moving forward to a positive work environment, as well as building a workforce that we have always known. We're made up of people who did quality work, but I think that it puts us in a position to begin the process of building that team fully out in a way that works for the city and for the employees. So I want to thank you.
I would just like to thank the city light workers, all the city utilities for that matter. And obviously in my other job, we see utility workers, and we see utility workers from different agencies. And I would just say that I would put the people who have and continue to work for the city of Ellensburg at the top of my list of the people that I'd like to call, because they're very responsive, they're very professional, they're easy to work with, and they figure things out. So I appreciate that.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Councilmember Elliott, do you have a council member report?
Yes, so I attended a number of different my commissions. Centrifuge, the conversation actually centered around long-term staffing for that entity and potential downstream succession planning, although there's nothing announced or imminent. But that was interesting to see. They also talked quite a bit about the tip strategy that was coming out and the focus on the arts and what Centrifuge could do to sort of align their efforts to support the arts community from a business perspective in Kittitas County and specifically Ellensburg. The Planning Commission, I think I mentioned last time, they'd had a conversation about ADUs, and they had these prepackaged plan sets that were actually really cool. I would buy one of those. But the conversation at the last Planning Commission meeting sort of focused on some of the restrictions that are in place on ADUs, both on the low end and on the high end in terms of size. And the only, sort of observation I walked away from that with was, the idea that, an ADU is supposed to be supplemental to the property, not, and we have to be real careful about changing the nature of properties, but that's a decision that they'll make and we may have to make. But on the bottom end, I saw there was a lot of flexibility in, people being creative, and if people want to build, small ADUs, that as long as they work and people want to live in them and they're safe, it's good. And they were talking about relaxing some building codes and things like that. So, and they got steered away from that. So that worked out really well. The EMS Council, nothing significant of note, other than we're very busy, and it's been coming up in like the homelessness discussions. The conversation around behavioral and mental health is just literally blowing up in the community in terms of people reaching my level, which is emergency medical services, which is a really inefficient and really not a very effective way to deal with behavioral and mental health issues, other than to stabilize the immediate crisis, usually at cost with significant issues. But so the community is working on that, and I know there's a number of different efforts to kind of align those efforts as well. And there was one more. Oh, the health network. The health network. My impression of our Kittitas County Health Network, they held their annual meeting, is that we've sort of worked through a lot of the issues about establishing a health network and sort of finding out what that health network, how it can begin to fill the community's needs. And I feel like we're sort of shifting gears now, and there's a lot of services in place. And I think that from a community's perspective, it's hard to know when you're not challenged by things because they're being dealt with behind the scenes. But I'm telling you, there is a lot of healthcare work being done behind the scenes to kind of tie all the agencies and the needs in the community together in a way that makes it much less impactful. And again, I'm not trying to pretend like we don't still have issues in this community with access to healthcare and wait times and those type of things. But I think that our health network, you could probably hold it up, next to communities that are much more affluent and don't have some of the same challenges we have. And we're seeing the positive results. It's just, you have to know what to look for. And I think that in the next 5 years, as long as we kind of continue along this pace, it's gonna get better. And hopefully that we can begin to address the behavioral and mental health side. That's all.
Thank you. I forgot one thing. The Mountains to Sound Greenway National Heritage Area Management Plan has been developed. You can find it online. And they're asking for a letter of support for it. And so I guess I am asking council if I can sign this letter that was placed for you.
So you want consensus or a motion?
Um,
So I can move.
Motion would be good.
Maybe-
And Nikki Passy has waited all meeting in case there were questions about it. So if there's questions, Nikki from the Greenway Trust can answer those.
I would just move mayor's signature on the letter.
Second.
Motion and second for mayor's signature on the letter of support for the Mountain Sound Greenway National Heritage Area Management Plan. This is something that we supported when they were asking Congress for this designation. So there is a history with this council and this, and just Ellensburg is the eastern terminus of this greenway, and it's a pretty cool project, actually, that really supports what we're trying to do in Ellensburg with the historic and natural and cultural traditions that we have as part of our comprehensive plan. So with that, all in favor?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So
You have a
there's
question?
no financial commitment. to
There
this?
is no financial commitment.
It's not part of our.
There could be
budget.
financial reward. There could be, it could open opportunities for additional grants is the way I understand it.
Thanks.
But no regulatory or any other commitment from, except for the Mountain Sound Greenway Trust. They have some obligations. It's a collaborative effort. Private nonprofit.
Councilmember Miller, I'm not sure if you voted or not.
We didn't vote
'cause
because
I-
she
I
said,
was trying to-
Started here voting.
Actually, there was a chorus of voices.
was there?
Yes.
Well, okay, then
Called for the
it we're
vote.
opposed.
And
I
mean,
did
you-
call for the question.
Yes, yay. All right.
I too will vote aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry for that confusion.
That's good. It's Monica's fault.
With no further business, we are adjourned.